And the best advice I give to any new wheelchair user, get into mental health therapy, because this change is more than what you ever know. And the one thing my therapist said to me the first day, he's like, you are 25 years old and you're relearning how to do everything you learned from age 3 to 5 at 25.
Right.
He's like, do not be hard on yourself. He's like, you're relearning life.
So, Kinzie Dickman, right? And that's
Yes.
short for McKinsey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Thank you for coming on to the Twisted Spine podcast.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I'm really psyched to have you. Been following you for a little bit, and shot you a little direct message, and here we are. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come onto the show and tell us your story. Basically, I want to know about your injury. Maybe you could tell us how old you are, where you grew up, and just sort of some of your history a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 26. I actually turned 27 this Friday, July 23rd.
Happy birthday. Nice.
I grew up in, thank you. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I went to college at a small school in Kentucky. I have a background in public health. And ironically, I originally went to school for occupational therapy.
Cool.
So funny how things kind of come back in a circle. I was a gymnast for 15 years in Cincinnati, Ohio. Lots of injuries and PT. So again, coming back around full circle.
Mm-hmm.
And my injury is a very rare situation. So I was in a car accident in September of 2017. I'm very lucky that I'm alive. I shouldn't be. It took 3 hours to cut me out of a car.
I'm sorry, how many hours?
3.
Wow. Insane.
Yes,
and were you conscious at this time?
I was actually.
Wow, intense.
I was given ketamine and fentanyl about every 5 minutes for my pain. I somehow lost consciousness at the wheel, crossed a double yellow line, down into a ditch, hit a concrete culvert, shot up in the air, and wrapped around a telephone pole like that. And then the car came down on top of me.
Wow.
And yes, I had over 300 years of experience in firefighters there. And I was air cared to University of Cincinnati Trauma Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very lucky that I did not have a crushed pelvis. So
yeah, wow.
I was lucky enough. I walked for about a year and a half after the car accident.
Okay.
But I had major in my pelvis region. So fast forward to May of 2019.
So wow, this is almost 2 years, a year and a half later then.
Yes, a year and a half later.
Yeah.
I finally went to my orthopedic and I thought it was my hips. And I had said, I can't take the numbness down to my toes. And he's like, honey, it's not your hips, it's your back if it's down to your toes.
Yeah.
And I was 24 at the time. Because my accident, I was 23. I just turned 23 in July of that year. Went to the doctor May of 2019, so I was almost 25. We did an MRI, and we had found what was called a syrinx in my spinal cord from at least my T5 to the T12 at the time. And so that is a fluid-filled cyst inside your spinal cord. And it can happen from a disruption of flow of cerebral spinal fluid.
Got it. Okay. I was going to ask you the cause. So this occurred, or the compromise. What do you call it again?
It's called a syrinx.
Okay.
The disease or the full diagnosis is called, I might butcher this, it's very hard to say,
Yeah.
syringomyelia.
Okay. Yeah.
And some people can be born with cysts. It can be congenital, and sometimes they don't cause any problems. So I could have been born with one. We'll never fully know. I never had anything done on any previous MRIs that said I had one, but after the car accident is when we found it. So
yeah, interesting. That's interesting to think about. Like it maybe was there, but you'll never know. Maybe it was like this is sort of the silver lining. Yeah. Interesting.
So we started all of that. And by October of 2019, I was not able to use my legs anymore. So May of 2019, the numbness was really bad. And I wasn't walking right. I was walking very, like I was stuck in concrete. Like
Sure.
from my mom couldn't get to my legs. Something was in the way of that neurological thought process. Not
Right.
all the messages could get there. And I literally kept describing to everyone, I'm like, I feel like I'm going a little bit more paralyzed every day. I lose a little bit more of control of my legs. And by October, I couldn't walk anymore. And
so essentially
at
2
that
years,
point,
essentially 2 years later, basically almost 2 years to the month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you have a diagnosed level of injury?
So right now I'm considered a T12 paraplegic. There are days where I feel numbness in my trunk. There's days where my arms are more numb and they go numb the more I use them.
Yeah.
I could atrophy and my level could come up. My syrinx is too risky to shunt. Right now, it's too narrow, and my neurosurgeon told me at the age of 25, he could not do surgery and cause possibly more damage. He's like, go live your life.
Sure.
And I said, okay, I will go live my life. And he's like, if the symptoms become bad enough in your arms, come back. We'll do an MRI and see if it's safer and in a better location where I can shunt and stop possibly quadriplegia from happening in your body. And I was like, all right.
Because it is progressive, potentially progressive.
It can It can be. Some people, their syrinx can stabilize and it doesn't grow anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Others, it can grow, and it does depend on what you do.
Okay.
Coughing anything like holding your breath, coughing, strenuous activities can cause it to expand. So me, mono skiing, wakeboarding, doing fun activities, I know the risk out there, but I only have one life. I'm going to either be in pain sitting on my couch, or I can at least give myself some real muscle soreness and say, I created that soreness. That pain I made versus sitting in pain that I'm going to feel no matter what.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good attitude to have, I think. I mean, you do only have like one shot at this, and there's plenty of people in the community, I feel like, that complain about some kind of pain, and it's real. I don't want to discount that, Uh, One of the things I
Right.
have personally is like a pins and needles kind of feeling that's constantly, uh, you know, agitating my feet and my legs, you know. And sometimes if I would really dwell on it, it becomes more intense. And I'm aware that it's sort of always there, but I don't really, after so long, I just don't notice it as much anymore. But if I really think about it, and concentrate on it, on the feeling, it intensifies, I feel like, you know. Um, and so I feel
Yes.
like your mind can really play a big part in, you know, what you allow your body to achieve, you know. And the fact that you're kind of dealing with this incredible diagnosis after this injury, the car accident, um, which it sounds like you were driving, which is also crazy. Um, but
Was just me alone.
mhm, that's a blessing. Yeah. Um, so what were some of the things that like went through your mind when you began to better understand what was happening to your body physically? You know, we see like traumatic spinal cord injury. I would consider you to be a traumatic spinal cord injury. I'm a traumatic spinal cord injury. But with regards to like the syrinx and the cysts and or like a spinal stroke and what we might consider non-traumatic spinal cord injury, you sort of went through both of these things, I think, simultaneously almost. How was it for you mentally and emotionally figuring out and like understanding what was happening to you physically?
Oh, it was really, really rough at first.
Mm,
Even with having the background of gymnastics, and I've had back fractures before. Like, I have 8 back fractures, so like I understood back pain. Nothing even compares to what the spinal cord injury pain I went through. And the fact that it feels like a white hot branding iron is just
mm,
being nailed up my spinal cord, like from my tailbone up. And I was placed on gabapentin, and I was given 1,800 milligrams, and it did not agree with my body, which everybody can react to medication differently.
sure.
People need to find what medication works for them. Gabapentin personally caused me to have seizures, to the point where I would seize 8 to 10 times a day and stop breathing.
Oh,
Um, and I was misdiagnosed for about, I would say, 6 months with a mental illness called functional neurological disorder. And they said that my brain was had miswired software, and that I just needed to do cognitive behavioral therapy, and that all of my symptoms would go away and I could walk again.
whoa.
So I signed up for
Wow.
that, but I was,
So wow,
yes,
interesting. So they want you to do like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy,
and
to sort of
rewire my
like
brain
as a
entirely
remedy for your
to walk.
physical. Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
They
Yeah.
were like, if you can distract your brain, you'll be able to learn to walk again.
Yeah.
And that I tried so hard. I did 12 days of inpatient rehab in Cincinnati, and the doctors and the therapists and the OTs, PTs, I did neuro psychiatry. I'm
Hmm.
also a yoga instructor.
Oh, cool.
Like I said, yeah, so I'm very grounded. I have very good coping mechanisms,
Hmm.
but I spiraled down into a depression that was so deep. I lost my job,
Yeah. Wow. What were you doing at
and
the time?
so um I was a health
Sorry.
inspector, And I was also the emergency response coordinator at my local health department. So kind of hard to do both of those things in a wheelchair. Kitchens are not very big to begin with. And
Sure.
then some restaurants, with depending on whatever your state law is, don't have to update to ADA compliant laws
Yeah.
if they don't change the structure of the building.
Yeah, they're
So
like
I,
grandfathered in. Yeah.
yes. So I had to medically separate.
Mhm.
Um, they they couldn't they chose not to adapt the position I was in or anything. But the depression and the physical things I was going through, it was a lot. My mom looked at me and said, "If you let go of the towel, I can't pull you out of this hole." She's like, "If you hang on to the towel, I can help get you out of this hole, but you've got to hang on." And that was the day I lost my job, and that was March 31st of 2020.
Interesting. So that's your mom's way of sort of saying, like, just don't give up. You have support,
Yeah,
and
she's like,
we're,
"I'm
we're here
here
to help you.
for you."
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a
and
really cool
I
analogy,
was like,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, she's like, everyone can get in these holes. She's like, but if you let go, I can't pull you out.
Right.
And so that was then we signed up and I did cognitive behavioral therapy. We
Hmm.
still went with the FND diagnosis because it can be kicked off by trauma. The car
Okay.
accident, I mean, I was unconscious. I don't
Yeah,
remember any of it. I'm not scared to drive a car, but
sure. But
I
there's
was
still
like,
some,
you know what? So I did cognitive behavioral therapy.
mhm.
No, it didn't give me my legs back, but oh, it helped my head. It helped my way of thinking
Yeah.
beyond belief. And the best advice I give to any new wheelchair user, get into mental health therapy because this change is more than what you ever know. And the
Mm.
one thing my therapist said to me the first day, he's like, "You are 25 years old and you're relearning how to do everything you learned from age 3 to 5 at 25."
Right.
He's like, "Do not be hard on yourself." He's like, "You're relearning life."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you are so right.
Yeah.
I'm starting from the beginning again."
Correct. Yeah. One of the
And
things I like to talk
those were,
about is how, from the day of onset moving forward, like you say, it's starting over. And it's like, if you're 6 months in, maybe a lot of your mental and emotional responses and how you're feeling about yourself, your self-image, how debilitating the injury can feel initially, um, it's like you're 6 months old and then you're a year in and you're a year old and you're learning all these new skills, essentially like how to
yeah,
poop and pee again, get dressed again, drive again. um, and it's like you're going through this growth process all over in a completely different new way, even though you're you know in your mid 20s at this point. And I think everybody goes through this relearning. For you, it happened to be when you were 26 or whatever, or I'm sorry,
yeah.
23. But everyone goes through it, whether you're a teenager or in your mid 20s or 30s. After the onset occurs, we all have to engage
Yeah.
in this like relearning process.
Well, shoot, I mean, even learning how to drive, like roll in a wheelchair and not tip backward,
Yeah, sure.
know how to sit up straight and how to
Hmm.
turn your body without, tipping over, how to give a hug correctly and not
Right.
tip over. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody thinks of the little things, how to set up your kitchen to where it's functional for a
Right.
wheelchair user.
Right.
Because I use the corner of my countertops and I'll do some, me being a lower injury,
Hmm.
I use the corner of my countertops and I'll do some functional standing right there.
Oh, cool.
And
Right.
was like, oh my gosh, what a smart way to use your kitchen, and then set up your kitchen to where you can use that corner.
Right. Yeah, you find
And
these
it's
little
just,
things. Yeah, sure.
yeah, you just have to rethink how you do things. And it's not that you can't, it's just how can you change it?
Yeah.
And I never say like, oh, I live this way. I just say, oh, I live adaptive lifestyle.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's a lifestyle. I just do things sitting down.
Sure.
I'm still, I just sit down.
Yeah. How has it been for you, and I guess getting connected in the community with the friends group that you have or that you've been able to establish? You know, the statistics tell us that for every, let's say, 10 injuries, only 2 are going to be women. For every 100, right? So that for every 100, that's only about 20 on average. So as far as you know, women in the community that are living this adaptive lifestyle and really like getting after it, like you are, uh, has it been harder for you to sort of make these connections with other women in the community? Has your friends group, how has that kind of evolved?
Um, well, I'm super lucky. So my husband and I, when I lost my job, we decided to, third time's a charm, move out to Snowshoe, West Virginia, which
Mm-hmm.
is a ski resort on the East Coast.
Cool.
Um, Challenged Athletes of West Virginia has helped me learn how to monoski. And I'm lucky that I have found a group of adaptive friends and able bodied friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I use Instagram and Facebook. And I literally will just type in hashtags, and I'll type in adaptive athletes,
Mm-hmm.
or I'll type in wheelchair users, or
Mm-hmm.
adapt and overcome. And I'll follow those hashtags. And when I find people as I'm scrolling, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this rad chick. She's
Yeah,
making it. Or I'll
right.
find like this dude, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that dude's mountain biking. Where
Yeah.
is he doing that? I want to try. And so I just use the internet platform.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you just sent me a DM and you found me and followed me and
Right.
friended me, and we just had conversation. The wheelchair community out there is all about sharing your story and your experience and saying, how did you overcome your hardships? What did you
Sure.
do to get over the, and
Right.
everyone in this community that I have found is literally like, dude, I will help you. You try, like, let's go, let's try it out. And I have
Mm-hmm.
found Jessie Straw on Instagram. I actually taught her how to adaptive wakeboard, and she had a friend
Oh
from
yeah.
Arizona come out, Kara. She races race cars, um, and she learned how to
Cool.
adaptive wakeboard as well. So
Nice.
both of them are amazing rad chicks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've made a ton of guy friends that have learned how to mono ski. And next year I'm gonna be a mono ski coach.
Oh, great.
So, and I mean, I just find all these other foundations like Operation Wake Surf. They
Yeah.
help. They help salute to service anyone who is in the military, police, EMS, firefighters, anyone that has served um, the United States somehow, some way. And if they
Mm.
have an injury, or whether it's mental, physical, we get them out and doing some sort of physical activity to help clear their mind.
Yeah. That's great.
So just finding these organizations gets you that buddy system. You're not
Yeah.
alone.
Sure. I think, doctors are awesome. Physical therapists are amazing. Obviously, you are looking toward occupational therapy, also another great field. Um, I remember my occupational therapy teaching me how to make a bed, and I like cooked brownies for my nurses in rehab, you know. I'll never forget that. It was like a really cool, just an interesting functional thing, like totally hands-on while in the acute rehab facility. And as much as that experience had an impact on me, the doctors and the nurses and the whole thing, right? But I never really learned more about the injury, what's possible, and how to do it than I did from other people that have been at
Right.
it longer than me, you know? Um,
Right.
and it just opened up my eyes to this totally different culture that exists out there. And you know, you don't really have to know, you don't know about it until you have to know about it, right? And then here we
Right.
are in this position, and we discover it's like, holy shit, man, look at like, yeah, like Jesse, yourself, all these other people, what's his name, Oliver, doing the wave
Yes.
ski thing over in what, Spain. um
Yes.
there's just some insane people out there, and you just never know what it exists until I guess you're in a situation where you kind of have to know about it, and then it's like this switch goes off, you know, or on, I should say.
Yes. Well, and my mom and I, when we call ourselves the Hot Mess Express when we're together, because first time learning is terrible for us.
Yeah,
And
sure.
when we were going through everything, like we went into therapy like day one, and they're like, "Do you have a gait belt?" I'm like, "No." They're like,
Ooh.
"Slide board?" No. They're like, "Do you have this?" I'm like, "No." They're just
Mhm.
naming off all these stuff, and I'm like, "Look, you don't know what you don't know." I'm like, I came into this blind. I'm like, I woke up one day and my legs didn't work. I'm like,
Right.
mine wasn't like boom, injury, paralyzed. I was like, mine is a very slow, progressive. I'm like, I didn't have the doctors around me. I'm like,
Hmm.
I've literally gotten all my information about spinal cord injuries from people who are spinal cord injury patients.
Yeah,
I'm like, they know what it's like because they live it every day. And
sure.
every spinal cord injury is completely different from one another.
Yeah, there's good and bad in that, I think, you know. It's like a
It's
fingerprint or a
hard to,
snowflake or whatever, but it's hard to sort of like, even though the injury level can be
the
the
same but
same,
different.
yeah, the function can be different, the symptoms, how you get, in and out of your car, right down to if you have dysreflexia or not, all of it,
Right.
it is a fickle bitch, the injury. You just never
It
know
is.
like what you're gonna get with it. Okay,
But
so yeah.
the thing is, you can compare and say, yo, have you tried it this way? And it's
Mhm.
just nice when you can pick each other's brains.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I remember seeing a guy, do something like, he was using a different catheter than I was using at the time. And I was just so interested, like, whoa, wait a minute, you're using this for this style and this situation. And it just kind of helped me realize, like, you don't have to do one thing the same way all the time. There's like so many different ways to skin a cat here, right?
Yes.
But as long as you're out, you're participating, you're engaged in the community. I mean, I think that's a huge part of the recovery process is, exactly what you're talking about, getting plugged in, developing these friendships, uh, finding the activities that you enjoy, again, like building that foundation, learning over, kind of getting I guess, your feet back under you, if you will, but then sort of, moving on from
Yeah,
that
you gotta
even
get
and
the wheels
growing and
turning.
yeah. So Kinzie, we've got the injury where you're from. You grew up in Cincinnati. You're living in West Virginia now. Um, One of the things I was really moved by was your new sort of adventure, your new, I guess, nonprofit you're starting. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk
So,
about that, please, a little bit? I'm really
yeah,
interested in this. I think it's a great, incredible idea. And I'd love the audience to learn more about what this is and what you're doing.
yes. So this also kind of ties in with Challenge Athletes of West Virginia. Um, there was a young woman named Brandy Garrett. She learned how to mono ski at Challenged Athletes of West Virginia. She passed away this year. I want to say it was late February or early March. I never got to meet her.
Okay.
Um,
She was a
and her
spinal cord
mom,
injury.
yeah, well, so she was very weird and rare too. She
Okay.
had an spinal cord injury from an aorta tear from a car accident when she was 16. And it was
Wow.
found 30 hours after surgery.
Yeah.
So
She had a lot happening,
it's a
in other
very
words.
rare,
Yeah.
yes. But her mom reached out to our executive director, Carol Woody, and said, I have all of Brandy's medical equipment, including two tie light wheelchairs, a color wheelchair, two sets of hand controls, and I want to find a good home for them.
Mm.
And I was around the same size as Brandy. I'm very, very small in stature. Um, and Carol Woody said, well, there's this young girl, Kinzie Dickman, that came to challenge athletes and learned how to mono ski. Her chair's kind of heavy for her in her situation. Maybe she would like to look into getting one of those tie light chairs.
Mhm.
And her mom called me and interviewed me. And we talked on the phone for about 3 hours. And she
Wow.
goes, I want you to have one of Brandy's chairs. And when we were on the phone, she mentioned, I don't want anyone to forget about Brandy.
Mm.
Now, Brandy did it all. She had a bachelor's degree, she had a master's degree. She was enrolled in a doctoral program because she wanted to be called Dr. B. She ventured
Nice.
12 miles into Denali Forest in Alaska. She
Wow.
won the Marine Marathon in DC on her hand cycle. She was mentioned on ESPN as one of the top athletes in West Virginia.
Wow.
She was an amazing person. She
Sounds like
loved
it.
to jet ski, and her boyfriend that she had been with for the past 9 or 10 years left Maryland, and they were building a house on Lake Norman,
Mm.
and they're still in the process of finishing it. I think Jeff is going to finish it out and move in. But so
Wow.
I went, and when her mom said, I don't want anyone to forget about Brandy, I got to thinking later that evening, and I said, well, because of Brandy, I'm getting a better chair. And
Mhm.
now all of these chairs, as you know, are very expensive. She spent about 15 grand on all of these chairs. I met with Jeff and I picked up all these chairs, and I said, told him in person, I'm going to start a foundation called Because of Brandy. So the motto is,
Hmm.
I'm going to collect medical equipment from loved ones that pass away, and I'm going to find people that have similar hobbies, interests, personality, and spirit of the
Mhm.
loved one that passed away, and find a new home so someone can honor that spirit and try to connect those families. And then that way they can say, because of blank, their spirit rolls on.
Yeah.
Or whether it's hand controls or a wheelchair lift for a car, they're
Right.
able to be more mobile.
I mean, the possibilities here are
So I
endless.
already,
Right.
right. And also, like, catheters, I know insurance is very hard. So if we can donate some of those things, and then
Right.
that way try to form more of a simple waiting list for those things. If someone needs it, you give those out. But I really, for
Sure.
the larger equipment that costs money, my motto is going to be, because of them, their spirit lives on because of you.
Right. It's really just a powerful
Um,
idea. I'm just in love with it. It's almost like organ donor. It's an organ donation,
well,
you
and
know?
Brandy
It's like a
has already, her mom was told that her eyes were already able to go to someone to help them see.
unreal.
And were already able to be donated to other people as well.
Yeah.
So she was able to help other people as well. She was able to help me with a wheelchair.
Hmm.
So because Brandy, she's able to do a lot more than what she did in her life. She's still helping.
Still helping. Yeah. It's just incredible, Kinzie. I just love that idea. You know, one of the things I try and really preach is how we need to shift our thinking about the wheelchair. It's not just a seat with wheels and, you know, it's a prosthesis. It should be looked at like an extension of our body. And in very much that way, this is like a, you know, an organ donation. It's like you're giving someone or you're
It's
helping.
people's lives.
Yeah. And you're giving them like a sense of freedom back, you
Yes,
know?
because if someone like me, my chair, I was given a quickie and people with syringomyelia, you really can't lift anything heavy because it
Mm,
strains on your spinal cord.
sure.
Um, and if you've ever picked up a quickie frame, they're not as light as anything that's titanium.
Right.
Um, and I drive an SUV because I live in
Hmm.
the mountains and
Yep.
something with clearance. And I was amazed that the chair that I'm in now weighs less than just my old frame.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I'm like,
Right.
oh my God,
Yeah.
my
Combined
arms
weight.
don't go
Yeah.
numb.
Sure. Yeah. And think
So
about how many times
it's
you do that a day, you know?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So this is
I
a
can go.
really, I love this idea. Are you in the middle of, are you gonna, will there be a website? Are you starting any social channels for this yet? I know that it's fairly new, but can you just share a little bit about what your next steps might be or how this is kind of progressing right now?
Yeah, so I do have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. They're both,
Cool.
the Instagram handle is at Because of Brandy Foundation, and
Okay.
then the Facebook is also Because of Brandy Foundation. And if you follow me on any social media, I have them pinned at the top and in my Instagram bio.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
currently working on a website. I would like to have it to where I can get pictures of the equipment with the sizes, and then
Hmm.
I want to be able to describe who the person was who used that chair. And then
Hmm.
that way, if people are actually interested, because I've had a lot of people just message me, like, how do I get a chair? I'm like, well,
Sure.
it's not just going to be handing out chairs. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see motivated wheelchair users do good in the world. Like, you are not just a bump on a log. You are a human being that can do amazing things in the world, and I
Hmm.
want to see you do it too.
Yeah.
So if I can have like a profile of who that person was, and then they can read that and apply for that chair, and then we can kind of do wean it down, kind of like job applications,
Sure.
and then come down to that. That's my process right now.
Yeah, cool.
My executive director, challenged athletes, going to help me set it up as a nonprofit organization,
Yep.
501c3, I think.
Correct. That's right.
um,
That's great.
so
I
we're
think that's a
slowly
really good
getting there.
way. Yeah. You want to make sure that the users that receive the equipment are respecting the person whose equipment that was by, you know, maximizing
Honoring their
the function, correct, honoring the equipment, right? Through, you know, and the
life.
life of that individual, or honoring the individual through the equipment that you're using, which is such a powerful
So
thing, you know.
that was a No, that equipment was somebody's loved one's equipment, and that family sees that equipment and they see their loved one in that chair.
Right.
And I told Brandy's mom, I said, everything that I will do from my
Mhm.
life forward, I will also do thinking of Brandy.
Yeah.
And I will do everything I can to give it my fullest intention, just as Brandy would.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because she gave me her chair.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I have to honor my life and her life.
Yeah. I love the story behind each, like kind of the personalized story behind each piece of equipment too, who owned it, and kind of their history, I
Yeah.
think is really kind of a special part of that. That's really cool.
And I also like I have a sticker that says because of Brandy, and whoever, like, I want to give a because of Brandy to sticker to everyone who comes through the foundation, but on whatever equipment, I
Hmm.
want it to be because of, let's say, whoever's name it is. That way that name is never forgotten. And
Sure.
then when you're out in the public, they can say because of Brandy or because of
Right.
John, what does that mean? And
Yeah.
their story lives on and they're never forgotten.
It's stellar. I just love it. It's such a kick-ass idea. And anything I can do to help, you know, I'm sure you'd be willing to take equipment here and there that is just donated, not necessarily from somebody that's
Yes.
passed away also.
Yes, I'm also making like anything that's from a company or organization, because you can tell me what does your company, organization, or what do you represent? It doesn't have to be someone that passes away. If you
Yeah,
want to donate an old chair, you can, and
sure.
it can be because of Ryan, and you can tell me what do you represent in life,
Right.
and can find someone for who needs a chair, and it can be someone that would be very similar to who you are and what do you want someone
Hmm.
else to represent in your chair.
Yeah,
So
right.
it doesn't even have to be someone who passes away,
Yeah,
but
cool.
the whole core of the story is about a loved one.
Yes.
So the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, Kinzie. Good luck with it. I think it's such a great idea. I think your whole jam, your whole vibe is just so great. Um, it's unfortunate what happened to you, right? But
It
and
all
I don't
stems
want
through though.
to,
If
I don't
you're
want to,
healthy,
yeah, right. I don't want to
if,
speak for the
if
entire
your mind is
community.
in a good spot, your life is better. You
Right,
just got to
right.
make sure your mind
Yeah,
is
it's a
happy,
powerful thing.
healthy, and your life will follow. And then if you find the right people to vibe
Hmm.
with,
Yeah,
it all comes with.
yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say I don't want to speak for the entire community, but we're happy to have you. Um, we need
Right?
more we need more people like you around, and I'm so psyched you were willing to come onto the program. I learned so much about you, and I want to put all of the notes here, the link to the foundation and all your social channels in the notes of the show,
Yeah.
so people can just click right on through on the podcast. They can do that. Um, and yeah, is there anything else you want to share or touch on before we sign off?
Um, Not really. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just honestly, all I can say is I feel like I have done more good in this life after my car accident than I ever did before.
Yeah.
And
So
little
interesting.
note, I got my West Virginia license plate. The numbers on it are 9/23, which is the day my life changed.
Cool. I love that. Way to like lean into
So
it,
I was just like, I'm like, wow, how just fitting that the license plate just
That was
has the day that my life changed forever.
was that random that that
Because
happened?
my car accident was September 22nd of 2017.
Yeah.
And so numbers on my car license plate are 9/23.
Unreal. That was totally random.
Yeah, it was totally random.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just weird how it all falls into place. And
It's so,
sometimes
yeah.
you just got,
Yeah, I think the more you are
no,
resistant, the more resistant you are to sort of accepting that, then the harder it is you are, I think you're making things a little harder on yourself than they need to be. But
right? You just gotta let life go.
yeah, I'm of the mind
And
that the
roll with
universe
it.
is, yeah, I feel like the universe is just unfolding as it should. Um, I don't think I'm any more
Well, and I
important
said
than,
after my accident, I said God sent every single angel and said, hug her. She
Mhm.
still has a purpose. And I
Yeah,
feel like I've finally found purpose.
yeah, that's awesome. That's a huge, huge thing. I think you're incredibly lucky to have a understanding of that. I think there are people out there that have been injured for 10, 15 years, 20 years, and they're still trying to figure out, how or what their purpose is. The fact that you've been able
Yeah.
to sort of, understand it, go through your, have the wherewithal to go through the cognitive stuff that you have gone through and do the healing and the mental preparation, understanding your body, all of the history. I mean, I feel probably like yourself in that, I was injured in a car accident too, but I put my body through so many different things. I should have been injured long before my car accident, but then it was just like a weird car accident that took me out, made me paralyzed. But one thing's for sure, I think I've been blessed, and it sounds like you too, with the opportunity, having so many other opportunities that you would have never realized were even an option, right? That were available to you. And because of the injury, you're being allowed now to do all of these incredible things. Um,
Right.
and it's just it's fascinating, it's a mystery, it's unusual, it's inspiring, it's like sad, but it brings joy,
Overcome and adapt.
yeah. I mean, my mom always would tell me misery and pain are inevitable, but joy is optional. You got to like figure that out on your own. All the bullshit's going to happen no
Right.
matter what. And I feel
Right.
like you have a good grip
Everybody
on
has
that.
hard.
Yeah.
Everybody has hard in their life.
Right.
And ours is going to be a little bit different. I couldn't reach the top shelf when I was standing, and I still can't reach the top shelf when I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? I mean, hard is hard, life is life, and
Sure.
you are in control of what decisions you have and how you want to react to them.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the way it's coming, you gotta make the change.
Right.
And I
Hold
finally,
on to the
third time's a
towel.
charm. We moved out,
Hold on
and
to the
it
towel,
was
right?
yes, just hold on. Everything you've got,
Yeah.
just even if it's like a little pinch, just don't let go
Yeah. Hold on
and
to the
find
towel.
your people and they'll
There's, that's right. There's people there. Just hold on and they'll help get you out. Well, Kinzie Dickman, go keep kicking ass. Thank you for your time. This has been so awesome. I'm glad to have connected with you. I hope we can maintain, this friendship and
absolutely.
hopefully get high five each other
One,
one day in real life. Um, maybe I'll find myself out in West Virginia on some snow, or if you ever want to come out to Colorado and make some turns, that'd be awesome
was like
too.
Kimono ski.
Yeah, I
Yes,
love to
I would
I
love to
love to
go
snow
west.
ski. Yeah. We'll talk more
Awesome.
about that later on. Yeah. Okay.
That sounds
Kinzie Dickman, everyone. Thank you so much. It's been awesome. And yeah, tune in next week for the Twisted Spine podcast. And until then, be safe, stay hydrated, be kind to one another. We'll catch up with you guys next week. Adios, friends.